Looking to be more productive and jump those hurdles of change and challenge easier? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Thrive in Life with your hosts, Zaheen Nanji.
Hello and welcome to episode number 46 of the Thrive in Life show. I'm your host, Zaheen Nanji. Thank you so much for taking the time again to watch this show, because we want to make sure that you get the best information and advice and tips out there that you can use in real time. Now, this episode is sponsored by one of my online courses called the Resilience Reflex. It's the same topic as my book, but the course is a 3-week course, and you can take each module for 1 week. So basically, one module a week, which will take you probably just about 60 to 90 minutes. So that's not too much of your time. So I encourage you to go to resiliencchampion.com. Again, that's resiliencchampion.com and check it out. All right, today we have an amazing guest, and I met him through a speakers community, and the host of the community just put a call out there and say, hey, Zaheen's looking for some guests. And Rich was gracious enough to say, I'm on. So I'm just going to start with a bio, and then we'll get him on here. So Rich, now I hope I'm saying this right. I forgot to ask you, Rich, how you say your last name, but is it Bontrager?
You got it right. You nailed it.
Okay, wonderful. Also known as The Trigger, is a motivational speaker, sportscaster, and a pastor on a mission to empower leaders and communicators. He's been a professional speaker and storyteller for the last 25 years. He's also the co-creator and a talk show host called Brad and the Trigger. And he is a 2017 liver transplant recipient. Since birth, he has faced many medical issues and near-death experiences. Through it all, he has learned valuable life lessons and principles to always press on, bounce back, and live a great adventure of a life. Welcome, Rich. Thank you for being on my show.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me be on.
All right, so let's just get started here. From all your struggles that you mentioned in the bio that you've had when it comes to health, what has been your greatest struggle to overcome?
Most people would say it was going to be my stutter or the liver transplant, and those are big, of course. But the one that's the most personal and hardest for me is my eyes. When I was 5 years old, I had an eye surgery. They think my eyes are affected from my childhood disease born with CMV. And CMV should have killed me at birth. It did not. I'm still here 55 years later almost. And the eye surgery was supposed to be corrected. So when I look at people, my eyes don't work in concert. I do not see in 3D. People will cock their head, look around their shoulders, and my eyes will go 2 different directions. So it's still the biggest one for me because it immediately breaks the flow of conversation and connectivity. And I know before they know, they're really confused about where I'm looking. So that one always still sticks with me.
Well, I can't really tell right now.
That's good. That's great. That means everything's fine. Good.
So for those of you listening to the podcast, know that I always record my show as a video and turn it into a podcast. So right now I'm actually looking at Rich. And you can also watch the video version at zaheennanji.com/TIL, which stands for Thrive in Life. All right, so now I know you mentioned near death there. So how did you find out you were dying, and what was the cause of that?
Well, back in 2013, my daughter was getting married. I was still being a pastor at that time, doing her wedding, and people kept saying I was looking sick and ill, kind of bloated, and I thought nothing of it. I just thought my daughter's getting married. I'm working extra hard. And then come September, in fact, it's almost 5 years to the date this week right now as we're recording this, that we found out that I thought I had the flu, went into the hospital, and my hemoglobin was down to 3.2, which if you know anything about medical hemoglobin, I'm dead. I was sitting up laughing and joking, and the doctors admitted me, gave me 4 bags of blood right away. And it took another 6 months for them to figure out, after several GI bleeds and other things, I have a liver that died a long time ago. 75% of it was dead and gone at that point in my life, and I was living on 25%. Wow. And still running life like a normal, regular Bontrager does. And the doctors were amazed, and that was the beginning of finding out. And once they diagnosed it, we literally went home that night, cleaned our cupboards out, and I went from a regular menu to a low-salt diet of 1,200 grams per day. And that was the beginning of a radical change.
And how are you doing now with your liver?
Well, it was March 25th last year, 2017. I got the greatest gift of life. Someone died so that I could live, and I have a liver, and I have done incredible. Absolutely way better than the doctors predicted. Most people will have some sort of disability, leftover results. I'm actually back doing everything and then some that I've been able to do all my life. So I'm very blessed. I worked hard on the front side preparing for the transplant, and I worked very hard on the back side to come through it as good as I could. And that goes right into one of my favorite new life themes is defying the odds. That's kind of been the theme of my life, and defying the odds of the liver transplant and coming back and being traveling, speaking, broadcasting again was really beyond my wildest dreams last year.
Now, you also mentioned in the beginning that you stuttered. So we have something in common, by the way.
I read that.
Yeah. And I still stutter sometimes. It kind of comes up. But it doesn't have that emotional charge that it used to have. And I've come far and, beyond that. And in fact, I'm thinking about the TED Talk that I'm going to do is going to be around that area. I still haven't, kind of figured it out. But tell me, and tell the listeners and the viewers, how did you overcome your speech impediment?
It began back when my grandmother was still alive, actually, because my stuttering affected my whole childhood. My self-esteem, the emotional, reading in class. Back in school, we had to stand up and read stories out loud, and they confused my stutter with deficiency of reading, understanding, comprehension. I actually comprehended great. I just couldn't get it to come out of my mouth. And my grandmother actually used comic books. Believe it or not, comic books unlocked my reading and my stuttering because my creative mind was always working. And she learned that the visual side helped me to communicate. And through that, I began to use my imagination and storytelling. And then I found a different way to speak. And then probably just like you, I've learned tricks of what words trip you up. The hardest thing for me is still introducing myself. So we meet each other. I have to go first. I've found if you introduce yourself first, usually my stutter kicks in, the nervousness rises. So one of my tricks is I will say, hi, my name is Rich Bontrager, and put my hand out, and then you're stuck going second. And those have been big things that I've learned over the course of time.
I can completely relate to that. For me, I started at the age of 5. And that's because at that time, I skipped grade 1 to go into grade 2. So we were in this program where they wanted to take 5 students out of the kindergarten class who did really well and put them straight into grade 2. And it was traumatic for me. And out of the 5, 2 of us stuttered, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, because my mom stuttered, so I got it from her, and it was all part of our family makeup.
Oh, okay, yeah. With me, it was nothing except for that. And it was until I came to Canada, and over the years, I just learned tricks on how to use words that did not trip me up. But coming to Canada, it got worse because being in a new country from Kenya, being in a new country and just being with so many people that I didn't know, it was just difficult. So so I can completely relate. But then I went for speech therapy, and doing that for 3 weeks even didn't work. But something that the therapist said that just got me into facing my fears.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, if you want to learn more, check out the websites, check out the books we have.
Great, I like that. Perfectly done.
Okay. So tell me that you've been through so much, right? Like you've been through um, the, situation with your eyes,
Mhm.
stutter, and then the liver transplant. So let's just go a bit about the stutter.
Yeah.
What made you, I mean, just like me, I always get asked, what made you become a public speaker if you have a stutter?
You can thank Harry Carey baseball and Cubs baseball.
Mm.
Growing up in Indiana, where I did, I would actually listen in my bed to Cubs baseball with my transistor radio, and I fell in love with broadcasting as a young child. Watching the NFL, I would watch Brent Musburger do sports, and I love Brent Musburger. So I always had the desire to do that, but the fear and the stutter always kept me from it. I couldn't ask girls out on dates because my stutter was horrible. I tried out for the drama team. They laughed me off the stage. But actually what really changed it was I did try out for a drama on a summer traveling team. And I got all the way through the final performance. They were going to cancel. They were actually going to cancel the performance for traveling because my stutter was so bad. I walked off stage. I did it perfectly. No hiccups, nothing.
Yeah.
And literally, the director came up to me and says, "What just happened?" And that forever changed and unlocked a whole new way of exuding myself, bringing my imagining even more alive. The more I imagine, the more I dream, the more my persona comes alive. So that's how Trigger came out, because I'm very outgoing, very bubbly. So if I do that more, the stutter disappears. And it was a whole reversal of shy,
Wow.
awkward kid to much more outgoing A-type personality kid.
Huh. So you actually became aware of that this is how I have to be in order for the stutter not to affect or,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I actually learned it. The more outgoing I became, the more I would walk up to you first or say hi first or initiate first, the more my tongue would just be normal. But if I waited and hesitated and was more reserved, introverted, it would kick in higher. So I've become a very A-type, outgoing personality.
I'm just wondering though, do you think that as you started doing that the belief system in your head kind of changed? That the more you talk, the less you stutter, or?
Yeah. That's very much a big part of it. Is I do believe in forward thinking.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of seeing a better future. That's a big part of my talks and conversation. Hope is all laced into it, and I really believe that the more I saw that hope and felt that hope, the more I could press into it. My broadcasting professor told me I would never have a career because I could not read hard news. And I still can't to this day. I just get too emotional. I don't like reading sad stories, but I fell in love with sports broadcasting. So I can ad lib, I can do play-by-play, I can do color analysis. That unlocked a whole different thing of getting off the script and just letting it flow. And now I've been doing a broadcasting career for 25 years. In fact, I have a game tonight.
Amazing.
So it is that whole forward thinking. It is seeing yourself in a different light. And I put myself into the broadcast studio, and it actually worked. It really does work.
You know what? I will say it now, and I've always said it. It's the mindset.
Yeah, it really is. The mindset has a lot to do with it. Too often we hear no more than we hear yeses.
Yeah.
So I really talk about a lot of time. We need to start saying yes more or try more. You're not failing if you're trying. It's just another way of learning, and that's how I've lived my life. That's part of the great adventure, and we'll go try it again tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, this is great. All right, and I know you mentioned with your transplant, your life completely changed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you're seeing life in a new way.
Yeah.
But how did you deal with the fact that, someone had to die in order for you to live?
That was probably one of the hardest mental leaps to go over, and they really prep you on that. And in fact, if you don't know much about transplants, they actually take you through a battery of tests for 2 weeks to see if you qualify. One of them is a psych evaluation, because it is a big mental leap to understand someone will die so that you can live. And even though I'm a man of faith, it was still hard to wrestle with the fact for me to live, someone's going to have to die, and waiting for a phone call. Every night, my phone was on. Every night I had the alarm set to make sure I did not miss a phone call, because it could be my life next. And we really got that close to it at the very end. So understanding that is a great sacrifice, is a great gift. I'm hoping to meet the family of the donor family someday. I have put my request in. I would love to meet them and thank them, and also let them know I'm doing great. The liver's doing great that you gave me through this gift of life, and I'm living a wonderful, healthy, full, rich life, and that ought to be a blessing to them, I would think. So it takes a while to wrap your head around the idea that you really have to take on someone else. Someone else is in me. There's another being within me sharing this journey called life now, and you have to fully embrace that, not be freaked out about it.
Now, you've gone through so much and you're defying the odds. What kind of tips would you give to our listeners and viewers to help them defy the odds, just like you have?
Yeah, no, we've touched on a couple really already. One of them is say yes more than you say no. Really look forward thinking and advance yourself. A lot of dreams get crushed by one or two conversations of people saying, no, you can't, no, you will never. We can look at people like Walt Disney. He had bankruptcy multiple times. Disney came out of a radical dream, and Disney has the greatest theme park in the world because he kept saying yes. I think that's a big part of it. I think a part of it may be faith. Everyone's got their own faith and belief system, but faith was a big part of my journey, and clinging on to that. And out of that comes hope. How that comes purpose and destiny. And I know some of the other people you've had in your show have talked about that. And I really think that you have to keep your sense of humor. I joke with the doctors all the time. I joke with nurses. Some of the nurses said I was more fun than any of the other patients, and they'd come hang out with me. I just am a natural cutoff. And even though my health was going down, I went from walking 5 miles a day on the beach to walking not even a quarter of a mile outside of my front window because of health just going down. But I was laughing. I was joking. Still being the same old cut up. And I think if you lose that sense of humor and joy, that dark cloud really takes on, then depression takes in and other things kick in. So you have to really press into that lighter side of life.
So I'm just going to be the devil's advocate and say, a lot of people, listening could say, well, it's not that easy. Like, how do you just say yes? And how do you get out of that mindset where, why is this happening to me? Or, like it's my life on the line, like it's easy for you, you get those, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what kind of steps did you take when you found out that your liver wasn't functioning and you thought, oh my God, am I going to die? Or how is this? So
yes.
How did you snap out of that?
There is that shock and awe of the moment, and my family and I sat down and we talked it all the way through. We talked with my daughters and totally laid it out there in the reality. One of the unique things was one of my daughters was still in high school. One of my twins wanting to go and study medicine in college. She wants to be a doctor. She's doing great in school now. We actually sat on the couch and she Googled and she read with me, and we explored liver and how it fails and what it means to have a liver, a good one, a bad one. She went through my dietary restrictions. She set up my whole pill regimen, the change. So having the family included in my questions, my doubts, my struggles, the transformation, having good people in your life helping you is essential. And the doctors tell you that. The doctors say stress is bad for liver disease and medical conditions. So remove all stress that you can. So that was one of the new things I had changed as a pastor and as a leader. We're used to stress. We're used to being around conflicts. And so I had to actually remove myself from some situations to prepare myself for a future, to get in a healthier place so I could keep that frame of mind. And so there are hard steps you need to do, but you really need to choose between life and death at that point, and really obeying the doctors. I've got a strong-willed A-type personality, and the doctor said you can choose our way or your way, and your way will kill you. And I had to let go. I really had to let go and let them do it.
I really like what you say because it's so important. And I always say this, in order to be resilient, you have to understand that you have to have a supportive network around you. That is not a sign of weakness. In fact, that's a sign of strength. And tapping into that supportive network is what gets you to bounce forward.
Yeah.
Right?
It really does, because then those yeses, those encouragements, those days when you're feeling out for your game. My brother, I actually moved down here to Georgia where I'm at now, moved from the upper Midwest, went through a divorce, through all this liver disease as well. So that's another defying the odds. And so I was literally alone. He brought me into his home and he became my caregiver and my best friend.
Wow.
And that was intentional. I needed someone in that time of my life to help me navigate life. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength to recognize it and get it and embrace it. And I'm better for it. And he's actually better for it too.
Yeah. So can you believe we're almost at the end of the interview?
Yeah, no, it's too fast.
Time flies too fast. Yeah. So Rich, how can my listeners and viewers get a hold of you?
Well, one of the ways is trigger@richbontrager.com. That would be the email address. I do have a new thing, and I'm working on the defying the odds. And there's a new email address I just set up for defying the odds @richbontrager.com. I would like to hear great stories of people that have defied the odds. I would like to put them on my YouTube channel, champion those and share those, because there's more hope out there, and I think we need to share it more. And you can also find me on my Rich Bontrager YouTube channel, Facebook. I'm everywhere on social media, just like you are.
Okay.
But the easiest way.
So what I'll do then is I will put that in the show notes. And I believe you're offering something to our listeners and viewers?
Just for the defying the odds, I just put up a brand new video that really goes deeper into this and some of my own life story. And I would encourage people to go check that out. They get a snapshot of some of those practical tips we talked about, and you can actually replay it and watch it, and hopefully it will help you and just be a starting point for defying the odds in your own life.
Okay, wonderful. Well, there you have it. Episode number 46 called Defying the Odds with Rich, the trigger guy. I love this. So if you, like he said, if you want to reach out and share your story, or even just ask him, if you know someone who may be going through something similar that he did, I'm sure that he will help you out. And I love hearing stories because they inspire me. And every time I have a guest on my show, I learn something new. And if I learn something new, that means you learn something new. So please share this episode with others and inspire them too. Until next time, make resilience your reflex. Bye now.
Thanks so much for listening to Thrive in Life with your hosts, Zaheen Nanji. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit ZaheenNanji.com. That's ZaheenNanji.com. We'll catch you on the next episode of Thrive in Life.